Okay, welcome to our first video here. We're on page 110. You have already done the quick check, and here are the solutions to the quick check. Problem number 1. We have the equation n plus 8 equals -9. So as we have been taught, we always look at the variable side of the equation, ask what is happening to the variable, and what is happening with the variable here is we are adding 8. So in order to undo addition of 8, we of course need to subtract 8. So we have to do that to both sides in order to maintain the balance of the equation. We subtract 8 from each side of the equation, and we end up with n equals +1. And then of course we want to remember to always check our answer. So take our answer, put it in the original equation. I know this is overly simple, but this is a good habit to get into. 1 plus 8 equals -9. And indeed, we do not have a correct answer. Okay? Most of you would look at this and see, yep, no problem, but we missed this here. So we have to go -9 and -8, and like I said, use the number line like you were taught in class. So if we start out at -9, and we move an additional -8, we would be moving all the way, of course, to -17. So this is -17 is our answer. Or another way to look at this is because they have the same sign, we can just add the coefficients, the numbers, 9 and 8, and it's 17, and since it's all negative, we of course have an answer of -17. Now use your check again, -17. If we ended up way over here on the number line at -17, and then move to +8, we would of course end up at -9. So we have a correct solution. So make sure you do the check. It will help catch simple mistakes that you make. Number 2, we have 4 equals p plus 19. We're going to do the opposite of the addition on the variable side, which is subtraction by the same amount. The opposite by the same amount. Subtract 19, subtract 19. Over here we've got p equals 4 minus 19. Again, if we start at +4 and move 19 to the left, we end up at -15. Put that in our original equation. -15 plus +19 is indeed a +4. We have a good solution. Okay, so don't forget to use your number line. Number 3, we have -4 plus a equals 15. Now I put on here, do not subtract 4. A lot of people will look at this and see that we've got 4 and we have addition, so we're going to subtract. Okay, it is -4, so we have to add 4 to get rid of -4. We have to undo -4, and the way to do that is to add 4. So we add 4 to this side, and we add 4 to this side, and we have a equals 19. So now we go back up to the top, and we've got -4, and if we move 19 positions to the right, we will end up at +50. Now let's switch to some multiplication and division problems. Problem number 4. We have 3c equals -18. I advocate what I call here using an answer box. As soon as you see the problem, you should immediately go down here and say, you know what, I've got a positive number multiplied by some unknown number, and I end up with a negative answer, so I know that I'm going to have a negative. So now I can kind of forget about the fact that it's -18 there. We're going to divide both sides by 3. 3c divided by 3 is of course c, and -18 divided by 3 is -6. So my answer is -6. Again, go up to the original equation, and I have 3 times -6 is indeed -18. One more thing I want to add in here. Feel free when you're doing your checks to go ahead and put that right in a calculator and use a calculator to do your double checks. Please don't rely on calculator in order to do this kind of simple math, but when necessary, feel free to go ahead and use a calculator to do your checks. Number 5, we have -42 equals -6b. Now a lot of you will look at that and see -66, so I put down here as another thing that I'd like you to think about doing. Feel free to change the variable to an x anytime you want, so you could put this as 6x so that it doesn't look like another number, but I'm using the ones that are in the book. So we take both sides, negative 42 divided by negative 6. We're going to divide by negative 6 because we had multiplication here with the variable. So to undo it, we're going to divide by the same amount, negative 6. Negative 42 divided by negative 6 is positive 7. And we've got b, so b equals 7. Again, you could use your answer box here and immediately see that you have to have a positive answer. Number 6. We're dividing here, w over 4, which is of course division, equals negative 8. If you would like to rewrite it like this, feel free to do so. So this helps some students. You don't have to if you don't want to. W divided by 4 equals negative 8 is the same problem. Now we immediately see that we're going to do the opposite, multiplication by the same amount, 4. We're going to do that to both sides. Again, we could use an answer box right away, put in the negative, because we have to have a negative answer in order to end up with negative over here. And negative 8 times positive 4 is negative 32. Oops, I didn't write the whole word problem here. You can look at it in your book, is to work backwards. So the very last thing they say in the book is, how many marbles does Heidi have? So right away I would identify a variable because that's the thing I don't know. So now I know immediately I'm solving for H, the number of marbles Heidi has, Heidi's marbles. Next previous sentence to that told us that Barry has 92 marbles. So there's one thing we know about Barry. And then additionally, if you go back one more sentence yet, it tells us that Barry has 18 more marbles than Heidi. So Heidi is our unknown. Heidi plus 18 will give us Barry's amount of marbles. So now we have two things that both equal Barry. So in other words, if this equals this and this equals this, then this has to equal this. Okay, so we have 92 marbles equals Heidi's marbles plus 18 will give us Barry's marbles of 92. So we have H plus 18 equals 92 from both sides, and we get H equals 92 minus 18, which is 74, and we write our statement out as write it as a statement type answer. We can answer Heidi has 74 marbles. Chapter 1, lesson number 1. Our topic is rational coefficients. And first of all, we should probably define those two words. First of all, coefficient. For example, in this case, the coefficient of the variable is 3/4. That's the coefficient of the variable. Okay, it's the number associated with a variable. That is what coefficient means. And in the case of rational, you all know what that means. We're talking about ratios, and ratios basically are fractions. So rational is fractional coefficients, might be a better way to think about it to start out with. So example number 1, we have 3/4 times c equals 18. So we're going to do a couple of things here. First of all, because it's multiplication, we obviously are going to divide. So if we were to divide both sides by 3/4, well, we know that we never do any dividing with fractions. So the book gives you this handy little idea of don't even looking at it that way, which I kind of don't really care for the fact that they kind of hide the idea that what you're really doing here is you're dividing both sides of the equation by 3/4. But as I started to say before, we never divide with fractions. We always multiply. And what we do is we multiply by the multiplicative inverse. And what many of you have learned to think of it as is you just flip it and multiply it. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to multiply both sides of the inverse of 3/4, which of course is 4/3. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4/3. But I would very much like you to think about this as a two-step process. When we multiply both sides of this equation by 4/3, we are in fact multiplying by 4 and then dividing by 3. Think of it as two separate steps. See it as multiply by 4 and then divide by 3. Now let's look at what this looks like now that we've explained that. So back to our original equation, which was 3/4 c equals 18. We're going to multiply both sides by 4. When we multiply this by 4, that's like 4 over 1. These cancel out and you have 3c. Multiply 18 times 4, that's easy, 72. Now we can look at this equation and say right away very easily, I know exactly what to do with that. I'm going to take that because we're multiplying by 3, we're going to divide both sides by 3. Divide this by 3, and I have nothing left but the variable c on this side. 72 divided by 3 is 24. And now you're going to do the check. You take 24 and put it back into the original equation. You have 3/4 times c is 24, so times 24, we can put that over 1. Cross simplify, divide this by 4, we get 6. This divided by 4, we get 1. So we have 3 times 6, which is 18 over 1, and that is indeed what our answer is. We have a good check. So please press pause and do letters A through D, please. Example number 2. Very simple problem, except for the fact that what they did is they gave us a mixed number here. In fact, they did it on both sides. And remembers how to do this. You might need some refreshing, so I'll take you step by step through it. We have to take this times 2, and we get 2 plus the 1 is 3. So it's 3 over 2. So you take the whole number, multiply it by the denominator, 16 times 2 is 32, and add the numerator, we have 33. So this would be 33 over 2, 33 halves. This would be 3 over 2, 3 halves. So now we've got it in a way that we can easily take a look at it. Multiply both sides by 2. And once we multiply this by 2, this was 2 over 1, that would cancel out. We have 3s. Multiply this side by 2, and the 2's cancel out. We have 33. So now we have a new equation that we can continue to work. We are multiplying by 3, so we're going to divide both sides of the equation by 3. Divide both sides of the equation by 3 right here. 3s divided by 3 is s. 33 divided by 3 is 11. So again, to refresh, first thing we do is multiply by 2 and then divide by 3. Multiply by 2, divide by 3. Go back to our original equation, and now if you would like to do your check with a calculator, that is perfectly okay with me. So you could take 1.5 times 11, and if you do that in a calculator, you will get 16.5. Press pause and then do problems D through F. I've got oops here because the math book already made a mistake here. You'll find mistakes in every textbook on the planet. There are 2 letter D's, so you're going to have a letter D with this problem set and with the previous problem set. We'll cover that in the next video. So now we're on to example 3. Please take notice that they always put, you should do the same, always put a 0 in front of a decimal that has no whole number associated with it. Nothing in the ones column, I guess, would be the way to look at it. It draws attention to the fact that you have a decimal point. So we have 3 and 15 100ths equals 45 100ths of n. So of course, is multiplication, so we're going to divide. Divide both sides by 45 hundredths. All you would have to do is put 3.15 divided by 0.5. We would move the decimal place twice in both cases, and we end up with 7. I'm sure many of you will use a calculator for this, and that's probably quite all right, but you should know how to do this in case you ever need to. Take our answer of 7, plug it back into the equation, 0.45 times 7, and you will get 3.15. Go ahead and check that in a calculator. And now example number 4. Again, we're going to work backwards. It's a word problem. The last thing they ask you is how many games were played, so we're going to use the letter N. You can use any variable you want. N is the number of games played. Then the second to last statement tells you that the team won 18 games. And the first statement is that they won 75% of their games. So if it's 75% of, remember in math, I'm going to say this many times this year, of is multiplication, and 75%, we can put that in a decimal, 0.75 or 75 100ths, 75% of multiplication, n, the number of games, is what we're looking for. So we have an expression here of the way to write the number of games won, and we have the number of games won is 18, so we can set those equal to each other. 0.75, 75 100ths of n equals 18. Divide both sides by 0.75 and you get 24. And again, put it in a statement, please. Latoya's team won 24 games. please press pause and complete the letter problems.